it was kind of the school of hard knocks and experience, and I mean, I went a whole season without catching a steelhead, trying to figure out drift fishing, and that you're supposed to yank when it stops, pauses, or hesitates, you know.
They like copper in the Trask.
I got a fish.
They're gonna go extinct if we don't do something.
Yeah. Hello and welcome to another episode of Badass Outdoors. On this episode, we are going steelhead fishing with a legend. I get to fish with Buzz Ramsey today. We are taking a trip down the river fishing, but we're also having a conversation about the future of fishing, specifically about salmon. So I invite you along on that journey. We're gonna talk about the dams. We're gonna talk about what conservation looks like today, going forward, and Buzz's legacy of trying to revive salmon and steelhead in the Pacific Northwest and encourage anglers. So if you're in, like, subscribe to the channel, and hopefully we will catch some fish and find out what musk Buzz uses on the regular. I'm serious. I want to know.
And a skincare regimen.
And a skincare regimen, because he has perfect skin and he's been outside on the river and in the elements, and I need to understand these things. Let's do it. I thought it would be.
Are you excited for this?
I'm so excited. You know what else is really exciting? We had home-cooked breakfast this morning. And not just any home-cooked breakfast by Buzz. Steak, eggs, hash browns, 2 pots of coffee. We are lit and ready to like rock today.
I have to pee so bad.
Yeah, it's because you drank too much coffee. Feels good, doesn't it? Yes, it does.
You ready to go?
I am ready to go. We're just getting situated here, and then we will embark on this beautiful river. Yeah. That's what's happening. Well, we have an excellent day for fishing. What's the plan? What are we using? What are we doing?
Well, the river is pretty clear. You know, it's low. We had a rain here, I don't know, pretty good rise here, 10 days ago or so. The river's been dropping since, although gradually, because we've had a few little showers. So the water's pretty clear, and in these conditions, I'm thinking, of course, bobber dogging is a hot deal, maybe even a bobber and jig. And also, I'd like to be pulling plugs, you know? We might pull plugs in a few places.
Excellent.
When you pull plugs, as you might know, Ashley, with all your fishing experience and guiding, plugs are the best when the water is medium to clear, and especially when it's clear. So, of course, it plugs the big strike with bobbers. You got to keep an eye on your bobber. Right, Matt?
Yes.
So actually, while Ashley and I were running the shag, Matt had a bobber down. And it was probably big. So
Probably a record-sized fish.
Probably a record-sized fish. So yeah, so we're going to do that and see if we can have some luck. We're getting an early start, about 10:30 or maybe a little later. We have breakfast. Fun.
Well fed, well caffeinated. Time for some fishing.
Yeah, time for some fishing.
Let's do that.
Yeah. We got plugs, Ashley.
We got a couple plugs?
Yeah. That's what I'm thinking. We have
The box won't be near as crowded once I get a couple of them on the lines. We're going to try copper. They like copper in the Trask. Copper maglip 3.0 with this water height. We'll try that, see what happens. And when you're fishing a maglip, you can use 2 snaps, double snap. And that frees up the lure to have a little hotter action, maybe in real slow water. And so we're gonna try that. Plus it makes it easier. Maglip, the right position for that pull point eyelet's pretty low, so it's kind of hard to get that snap off and on sometimes. And so having 2 makes it easy.
What's it like being guided for steelhead instead of being the guide?
It's everything I hoped and dreamed it would be. It's always so wonderful seeing somebody else's program and kind of hearing the nuances and details of how somebody else sets up for fishing, especially somebody like Buzz. So I already know that there's going to be a lot of little learnings and cool tips and pieces that I pick up just from paying attention to some of those softer details. So like one thing that Buzz mentioned was to keep your thumb on the spool, and that's one thing that I typically don't do, but I imagine, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's great to keep your thumb on the spool because once you do have a fish grab that, you can kind of stop that line from being a giving factor to that fish right away.
And you can set the hook. Of course, then you have to remember to take your thumb off the spool.
Seems like a good tip. This is what I'm talking about. So
I've had so many times when someone will have a strike and I'll hear the drag spin and I'll say, "Do you have your thumb on the spool?" They go, "Yeah." Well, they did.
Yeah, well, you can hear it, yeah.
And we don't have the fish.
Yeah.
So yeah, thumb on the spool, you set the hook and the rod bottoms out, and then take your thumb off. Gotta let them run.
Let them run, let them run.
Thinking we will, but we'll see. See if we can put these in the kitchen.
The kitchen.
The kitchen, yeah. That's where you get all the bites.
Yeah. That's where you go to eat, right? Are there good smells, Bubby?
Pretty short slot.
It might be a little on the deep side.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I think I'm good.
Not too deep in there. Well, I could use some pointers from you on the bobber dogging thing.
Should have a bobber dogging setup up. Probably be a little bit more conducive to this.
Either bobber dogging or...
Yeah, we're out of it.
Yeah, we're out of it. There's another little slot coming right up here.
I'll grab the one for that. Uh-oh. I got a fish.
juvenile salmon, isn't it?
There we go. Little petty. It actually kind of looks like a young steelhead. Yeah. Bye-bye. Go get big.
There you go, Ash.
Okay.
You caught your first steelhead on the Trask.
Let's go home. Just kidding. Okay. I think removing the 2 dams on the Elwha is a beacon of hope that we all really needed, because, you know, dams coming out, this is only something that's been really happening in, you know, the last decade or so. I mean, I know there's been other examples, but the Glines Canyon and the Elwha Dam, the 2 major dams on the Elwha, those have been in place for over 100 years. I think the second one 110 years before it came out. And so, you know, it's a smaller system. So when those came down, you had 100 years of trapped sediment that blew out that lower section of the river. It actually got worse before it got better. And for that to blow out, settle in, and then for some of those resident species to come back and start, spawning, and now there's a building run on that river. I think it's a great example of how an ecosystem balances out once you take the interference from people and dams away from it. So I'd be curious to see if it turns into a viable fishery soon.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. I mean, I think I read where, you know, all those they were summer steelhead, a lot of those resident trout, which some trout have a trait that allows them to go to the ocean and become steelhead.
Right.
To make the transition from freshwater to saltwater. And other trout, if you put them in salt water, they die, you know. They got to go through that smolting process to allow them to make that transition. And for them to have that, exhibit that trait almost immediately after those dams went out, and then come back as summer steelhead, and I think the population is a couple thousand, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, like I think...
It's unbelievable, really.
Yes. And it's exciting, I mean, to see fish are resilient and able to do things like that. And so to see that example happen, you know, without a lot of interference from people, that's really exciting.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how the salmon do. There was some spawning, I think, below those dams, and so those fish I know are accessing that upper habitat, and it's going to be interesting to see how they respond.
Yeah, and we know that estuary is so important for salmon, and that I know that sediment kind of changed the floodplain, and so, you know, ideally, hopefully, over the next couple of years, that continues to settle in and become, you know, the estuary becomes a safer place for those salmon. I hope it recovers.
Estuarine habitat is real important. Of course, we need to get some vegetation on it.
Sure, yeah.
so they can hide in the bushes.
Right, yeah.
And they're young like that.
And I've seen a lot of efforts to plant native, you know, trees and shrubbery and that sort of thing to kind of like bring that back. So you're spot on. I think that habitat's important, and I hope that, you know, places that have been underwater for a long time, a lot of that dies off, but I have to imagine it can come back.
Sure.
Well, what if, like, so 2 things. One, the sediment that washed out was stuff that would have been replenishing nutrients.
It would have gone down to the mouth anyway.
Yeah.
And so it needed to, and that's probably a good thing, right? That it came out and that it's down there now to replenish nutrients and stuff in the lower river.
So I did a little bit of studying on this in college, but it just, like, I'm not a biologist. Here's what I understand, though, is that when all of that sediment comes down at once, it's one thing for sediment to come down over time as it naturally would, but it's another thing when you have a giant dumping of a lot of sediment. I mean, think of a river that goes from color like this, you know, an Olympic Peninsula, like glaciers are feeding a lot of these rivers, like very clear, very beautiful river, and then for like really fine sediment to blow that out, like we know that salmon and steelhead struggle with a whole bunch of like sand and sediment. Too much can actually be disastrous, so dumping that all at once makes the river a pretty dangerous place for those fish, and then it settles in on the floodplain. So the morphology of the river changes so rapidly, and the sediment has so much to do with that it actually, I think, like builds up at the like in the estuary area, and then as that continues to blow out, becomes like a more like hospitable place for fish. Gonna say it again, I am not a biologist, and I'm dropping terms like morphology and things like that like this is just what I understand, and why I say that's why it kind of gets worse before it gets better. Like some of that washes out, but then once it does, you have your river starting to like settle in, and changes are made, and plants start growing, and the ground becomes, you know, more solid and isn't like eroding away so quickly. And so these are all good things for salmon and steelhead.
It just takes time to heal.
It does.
Get together with you, I know we talked about it before, is to besides fishing together and maybe catching a steelhead, is to kind of get together and compare notes and talk about the Columbia River.
Yeah.
And particularly as it relates to this new Simpson plan, the plan that Congressman Mike Simpson has come forward with to breach the dams on the lower Snake River, which sounds like whoa.
Right.
You know, and one thing I think people need to understand about the issue, and I think you do, but maybe we'll share, is the fact that if you took the Columbia River watershed as a total, half the salmon's historic range is blocked by dams.
Sure.
Big high dams, no fish ladders, you know, little chance of really recovering any meaningful runs above them.
Yeah.
But of the habitat that remains, 50% of it is in Idaho. Or excuse me, 70%. 50% of the watershed's blocked by dams, 70% of it is in Idaho. There's 5,500 miles of rivers and spawning tributaries, of which about 1,000, 1,200 of it is pristine, because it's a national forest land, wilderness area, you know, Frank Church Wilderness Area.
Sure.
And so the most and the best habitat remaining in the Columbia River system is in Idaho.
Yeah.
And I mean, as an angler and a fisherman and a citizen that cares about the resource, I cannot fathom that society would be willing to let 70% of the habitat, salmon and steelhead in that habitat, go extinct.
We're talking about hundreds of thousands of fish that we could have, but can't because we have physical barriers like this.
Right.
And this really important habitat.
It's the best and the most, you know, up
Yeah.
there in the Frank Church Wilderness Area. It's pristine, and it's the most productive because it's, the other reason is because it's, not only is it pristine, but it's some of the richest habitat with bug life, aquatic life,
Sure.
and everything. So that is really what we're talking about. And the runs going there, we still have runs there, of course. The runs going there are, the wild runs are going, notching overall average. Some years you get a little peak, you know, really good flow, better ocean conditions, you get a little burst.
Yeah.
But for the most part, the wild fish in particular are heading towards extinction.
Right.
They're going to go extinct if we don't do something.
Yeah.
And like Simpson says in his plan, and he's researched this a lot, the worse the runs get, the more money we're going to spend.
Absolutely.
You know, we've already spent, as you might know, $17 billion trying to bring these fish back. And we're kind of giving them, in one way, we're kind of giving them everything but what they need.
Of course. Well, and that's the one thing, I mean, I kind of noticed first off in the, you know, video that Simpson did. He talked about that, like, hey, we looked at not taking out the dams first. We looked at every way that we could help these fish that made sense, that didn't include moving the dams. And there comes this point of realization where you just say, hey, we've got cement barriers going all the way across the river, and there is no way that we are going to be able to get what we need from these systems, what these systems are capable of, until we remove these barriers.
Right.
And it seems like and it is a big deal to take out these dams. It really is. And it's something that can be done, and he's looked into a lot of ways to mitigate the downsides to taking out the dam. I know there's a lot of people that rely on that dam being there, but there's a lot in this plan that addresses that. Everyone, I would say.
Well, most of the money appropriated in the plan does address that. I mean, first off, people need to understand also, I think, that it's not that any one dam is so bad, it's a cumulative effect.
Yes.
For example, for fall Chinook, upriver bright fall Chinook, that drives a lot of the fishery at the mouth of the Columbia and in the Columbia for fall Chinook, that run spawns in the last free-flowing stretch of the Columbia, the Hanford Reach,
Yes.
up there where the Hanford Nuclear Reservation is. And those fish have to negotiate 4 dams. 4 dams? Yeah, there's some mortality, no doubt, but
course.
it's not holding the run back from abundance.
Right.
Yeah, it might be better without them, but we're not going to take those big dams out.
Sure.
Society's not going to do that. Too many
Right.
benefits, too important to the Northwest economy.
Of course.
But those fish, in the last several years have put an average of 400,000 adult salmon back to the mouth of the Columbia River. And there's some years when it's twice that. Really good conditions.
Sure.
But the Snake River, where there's way more habitat, there's twice that fall Chinook habitat in the Snake River, but they've got 8 dams to negotiate.
Right.
So it's the cumulative effect of just too many.
Right.
And that's what. So the 4 dams on the lower Snake, located in eastern Washington, offer the least benefit to society. They're important to a lot of people, don't get me wrong.
Sure.
But those dams offer the least benefit to society, and in a big way, they are what is driving these salmon towards extinction. And so removing those dams, Simpson's plan is about removing those dams, but also, and this is what I like about his plan,
Yeah.
it's about keeping everyone whole.
Yes.
I mean,
people are taken care of in this bill.
Right, people are taken care of. In fact, it's a jobs project. Every bit as big, or actually bigger, than when the dams were built in the first place.
Sure.
And a lot of those jobs are infrastructure things that will improve rail, improve highways. I mean, it goes on and on. There's, I think, $700 million even for predator control.
Yeah.
So
a lot's addressed.
So that's what I like about his plan. It doesn't leave people high and dry.
Right.
There'll be some change, but it doesn't leave people high and dry. I mean, $33 billion plan. I think it's less than $2 billion to breach the dams. All the rest is going to help the economy and infrastructure and keep people whole.
Yeah.
And prepare the region really for a bright future for the next 50 years or more.
It's that bright future that really has me excited, because yes, the bill takes care of people today, but think about what we're setting up for the future. If we can start rehabilitating these runs, open up all of this habitat for our fish, I mean, the opportunity that people will have is unlike what we understand like this opportunity is today. And fishing is a huge industry here in the Northwest, all along the Columbia. To be able to magnify that for future generations, this is really significant. And COVID has really helped demonstrate how significant these outdoor spaces are to us. Being able to go outside and enjoy a day of fishing, to go hiking along a river, we've needed that over the last year, and it shows how significant these places are. And I hope that people can really get behind opening up more of that opportunity, because we need it now, we've needed it over the last year, and we're gonna need it in the future too.
Well, some of the rough estimates on what it would mean.
Buzz and I talked for another hour about the Snake River Dam removal, but we'll save that for another video. So Buzz, did your dad teach you how to fish?
Well, no, my stepdad, he didn't really fish, And why I was always buggy about it, I don't know. I mean, my real dad fished, but I didn't really know him or grow up with him. So, but since I was a little, I was infatuated with fish. And my mom, I remember the first trout I caught, I was like, I don't know, 10 years old, or maybe a little more than that, maybe 11. She took me to a trout farm, and I caught some trout. Of course, you're paying by the pound there. But then when I got a little older, she took me out in the ocean. Went out to Depot Bay in Oregon and caught some salmon. I was all thrilled. And then she used to take me out on the Columbia River, and we would cast from shore and still fish a spin glow, and wait for the migrating salmon and steelhead to come by and ring the bell. And that was fun. In fact, I'd like to do that again. I haven't done that in a few years, a lot of years. But yeah, I was always really into it. But I struggled, especially when it came to catching steelhead in tributary streams, learning how to drift fish and figure out what a bite was. I mean, I didn't have a teacher. I didn't have a mentor, if you will.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of the school of hard knocks and experience. And I mean, I went a whole season without catching a steelhead, trying to figure out drift fishing, and that you're supposed to yank when it stops, pauses, or hesitates,
Sure.
But I finally did. And then about that time I got a driver's license, and Katie barred the door. I was catching lots and lots of salmon and steelhead in the rivers. Got a drift boat when I was 17, and
Wow.
And was on the chase. And I think because I struggled so much, I really have a lot of desire, always have had, to help fellow anglers find success,
Sure.
through all the stuff I've done in my career with lure Jensen and pure fishing, and then finally Yakima bait, and then of course the lure design thing. A lot of the extra effort you put into designing a lure that really does work, and I was willing to make that extra effort, go the extra mile, if you will, because I wanted to, especially later in my career, I wanted to make sure I was responsible for lures that you could tie on the end of your line and put out and catch a fish.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what people want and expect, and it's not always the case, but I think I've made some contributions there, if you will.
I think maybe 1 or 2 or 100 of them. That's great.
I just wish I could put you on one,
It's quite all right.
The bite's been tough here lately, but you gotta try.
That's right.
Not gonna catch them sitting home.
Nope.
I got a little one.
Yay!
Yay. Maybe another little one.
Oh, it's
Oh,
a little
yeah.
guy. Hey, no.
Oh, yours was bigger, Ashley.
Oh,
Of course, I knew that. You got that pair of
no,
pliers
that's
up
a little
there?
cutthroat.
Yeah, that's cutthroat.
That's a little kitty.
Yeah. See the red slashes on his throat? What do we do with those pliers? Had that
on,
red
buddy, don't
handle
do
pliers
that.
up there somewhere?
Oh, here, I got him.
Okay.
Done.
Done. Yeah, just turn the hook upside down and pop them off there.
Pop, pop, pop. Perfect.
Let's cut a fish on camera.
Yay!
Woo!
Yeah.
What can other seasoned anglers do, you think, to make an impact and be more welcoming to the first-time people? How do you get more people involved in the sport, especially those who didn't necessarily have a mentor?
Well, of course, when working in the industry, what you see is, when fishing is really good, that's when you're really recruiting new anglers.
Yes.
When the team's winning, the bleachers are full. And when fishing's good like that, they, that's when you gain participants, if you will. Yeah, I know I'm going all over. Which
Do you want me
way?
to grab your rod?
no, it's good. I got it.
Oh, okay.
So, there is that element that when fishing's poor, you don't really recruit a lot of anglers
True.
into the sport. Maybe some, but when fishing is really good, like maybe it's going to be this fall with the big run of Coho coming back to the Columbia, that's when people go, get excited, show off all their results, and the people see that and they want to play too, and that's when you really see things get going. But a lot of the rewards in fishing are not only taking your family and your friends, but introducing new people to it.
Yeah.
And I think that is a big deal. I mean, there's a lot of young people that they want to do it. They want to live the dream. They want to be the one holding up those big beautiful fish.
Sure.
And that's inspiring to them. And I think a lot of the lifestyle photos really you see on the internet and such is inspiring to them. They want to do that. They want to be in that picture. And so, but it's rewarding to introduce somebody to it, show them how, provide them with a bit of a roadmap to success. And that's important, because just trying to do it cold, walk into a sporting goods store and try to figure it out, I mean, whoa.
Right, it's intimidating.
It's hard, it really is, for someone that has never done it. I remember when I worked retail sporting goods years ago, somebody come in and they go, I'd like a rod and reel. I go, well, what are you going to fish for? Well, everything.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
because they had no idea, that, I mean, you might need a pretty different rod if you're going to fish trout versus steelhead versus salmon. If you're going to bar fish on the Columbia versus troll from a boat, I mean, it's all different,
Yeah.
So you kind of gotta know what dream you want to live, and then make your tackle selection from that. But just to go in the store and try to figure it out might be kind of tough. You can ask the salesman, and a lot of the stores that really have fishermen on staff that help the public, they can kind of get you going in the right direction. But a lot of people, they just want to go. They don't know what's out there.
Right.
I suppose the natural evolution is somebody starts off maybe trout fishing, and then they do that maybe every year, and then they decide to go salmon fishing when they hear it's good, or maybe go steelhead fishing.
Yeah.
One thing is to go on a charter boat, go with a guide.
Right.
That can be a big,
It sure is
a big
learning curve.
kind of get you to go, oh, okay, I get it,
Mm-hmm.
And so, but it's a fun thing. So I want to know what your favorite fishery is.
My favorite fishery is the Coho and Chinook fishery on the Quinault. I love it because those fish come in so early, and there's a very distinct period that I enjoy fishing, and it's late August when all of the Coho are coming in, but they're trapped up right at the ocean, right at the mouth of the Queets, and it's like they're all there, and in the tides they'll kind of dip in and out of the mouth. They're not ready to go up, or there's not enough water to go up, but they'll hang out there, and then it's like a little bit of rain comes and this biological clock ticks, and it's time, and they all go and they move, and you get thousands of fish that come through this small section of the river that's the mouth of the Queets, and it feels like a really exciting event to experience. But for 500 generations, my family line has fished those very rivers, the very mouth, the sands that I'm standing on. Hundreds of generations back, my family stood there and fished for those fish. It feels like a connection to them that is meaningful, and it feels like I am honoring the legacy and the things that they did to ensure that we have that fishery by using it and being a part of the community and enjoying that fishery. It's like every time I get my line wet is like honoring them in a way.
Yeah.
And I really like that part.
You're connected to it.
I'm connected to it.
Connected to it, yeah. Well, I know you feel this way, and I do too. I want to see runs like that back up the Columbia.
Me
and
too.
The Snake River.
All of the rivers.
All of our
More
rivers.
fish.
We are salmon country.
Yes.
Yeah, that's very cool. It's very cool.
I would also like it if you could stop the cold wind.
Yeah, maybe those clouds could move over and a little sun.
Hey, move!
A blue sky could move over here by us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just out of our reach all day. Just beyond our reach.
I think what we're gonna do is move out of here,
Okay,
downriver
let's do that.
to the truck.
I was gonna say, we have to be getting close, right?
It's a ways yet,
Oh, okay, yeah.
but I would have thought these holes in along here would have tide fish. This is about the right distance for them to push in here, and
Okay,
no luck.
all right.
So I'm thinking we need to move it along, maybe.
Yeah,
See what happens. If there were salmon around, I'd be rowing down to that railroad bridge.
right.
Quickly.
Yeah. Shall I bring it in?
Yep,
Yep.
bring it in.
So we're all wrapped up back at the boat launch. We didn't get a ton of fish, but we caught some trout. But more importantly, today was about connecting, talking about important issues, and I can't thank you enough for this fishing trip today and for these important conversations.
Well, yeah, it was all good. I mean, I wanted to get together with you to actually talk about this face to face.
Yes.
The whole salmon recovery thing on the Columbia River and Simpson's plan. And it was good to do it this way rather than always over the phone. So
Right.
yeah, it was fun. And I wish the fishing would have been better, but you know, it's all good. It's still fishing.
Yeah, and I picked up a couple tips and tricks from you, so thank you so much for that. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please like, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you for the next adventure.